What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. You can find me on Twitter at @A_Cuesta30. That's also my Instagram handle. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. Find it also on Instagram now at SportsOpinions30. And also visit the Facebook page for any past content. You can find it all on there. And if you're listening, thank you as always for listening. You'll find us on Spreaker, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play Music. With me today is a guy that I've been interacting with, seems like forever now on the internet. Definitely on Twitter. He's the site expert at the Jet Press, which is under the Fansided umbrella, all about the New York Jets. It's Luis Tirado Jr. What's up, buddy?
Doing good. How about you, man?
Doing really well. But yeah, it feels like me and you have been like in contact through the Jet Press and then just through your own personal handle for a really long time.
It's been a while. Yeah, a good time. Very good time.
Oh yeah, and it's definitely a great time now because we both happen to be Jets fans. But before we get into all the heaviness of that, you want to give any social media plugs for people to find you?
Sure. You guys can find me on Twitter. I am at LTJ81. I'm also on Google+, just simply type the same thing, LTJ81, as well as on Facebook. My author page is also facebook.com/LTJ81. If you guys want to get all my links for all my articles, slideshows, and the many articles I've been writing about Mr. Darnell, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. So the Jet Press is, you're the site expert there, which is basically Fansided's fancy way of calling you like the main editor of it. And it's dedicated to all the Jets. It's actually one of my preferred sites to go to for whenever any big Jets news comes out. Either Lewis or one of the many like awesome people he has on his staff will go and give you really good opinion and insight. They're all dedicated. I want to say most of them are Jet fans. I know some non-fans get littered in there, but they're just talented writers in general. So you'll never not get a good slew. And since the Jets are your expertise, we're going to talk about them. Lewis, what the hell happened in Week 1? Did they drink Michael's secret stuff?
It's really interesting because it's one of two scenarios. Either the Jets are that good or the Lions are that bad. It's one of the two. And the jury's still out. I will say, though, for what it's worth, the Week 1 epic win, I use the word epic very sparingly when it comes to this team, but that was an epic win on every level of professional football. And again, I looked at it, and it's hard for me to judge. If it was against the New England Patriots, then I'd be like, yeah, they're a good team. But again, it's the Lions. For all we know, they can go 0-16 this year. Who knows? And then it won't mean much. But you got to take it for what it is. It's a win. It's an epic win. It's a good win. It's a happy win. And you can only go from there.
Exactly. And the Lions, I never thought that their defense was going to be anything to call home about. I didn't think Sam Darnold was going to have a field day because for a rookie who really didn't have to throw the ball in the fourth quarter, he had a friggin' field day. But I did like their offense going into this year, and I still actually do like them. Matt Stafford got his butt whooped, but I like their weapons. I like what they have on offense and receiver, and the Jets' defense, while the sacks still weren't there, the quarterback pressures were awesome. I think Avery Williamson passed the test of being a sideline middle linebacker. He definitely made Darren Lee a better middle linebacker. And overall, that secondary, without Marcus May, with two corners going down, two of their starting corners going down at certain points in the game and coming back, I really liked what I saw defensively. How about you?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Like, that's the team that I see what they were trying to build a couple years ago. When you get upgrades at linebacker, upgrades at safety, and you kind of tweak things here and there with free agency, like, it's all coming together nicely. It's scary because, like you said, they didn't play with Marcus May. If he was in that game, they could have dropped 6 points, to be honest. They probably would have gotten another interception or two, which is crazy to think about. And it's a good foundation. It's like that defense, if they play like that with that intensity and that pass rush and that secondary that's batting down passes and intercepting passes, it's going to be a pretty good defense the whole year.
Now, I have two things for you. One, where are they going to get the pass rush from? Because I know they were going after Dante Fowler Jr., the rumors were, over at the Jaguars, who I would love to see him on this team. I think he could be a guy where we won't have to throw so much at him. I thought we kind of lost the chance with Teddy. I thought we could have maybe done a straight-up swap because Blake Bortles is abysmal. Even though they got the win, I'm not a Blake Bortles guy. but I still like Fowler. And number two, how much can we take into stock that Casey Rogers has taken over the defense and that Todd Bowles has kind of taken an approach of a true head coach where he's just guiding both offense and defense, but Jeremy Bates runs the offense, Casey Rogers calls the plays on defense. What can we take stock in that?
Well, for the first part, I would love Fowler on the Jets. I just think that such a trade's probably not going to happen until some players get red hot on the Jets. And unfortunately, if you want to fix pass rush by getting someone like Fowler, you got to grab something good. So my thought process, and I did write about this in my whole bold predictions thing, I really think if Powell continues to have as big a year as he will be, because he will be an unrestricted free agent next year, then you got to give something good to get something good. I can see the Jets trading Powell for Fowler. I can see them trading maybe even Robbie Anderson for Fowler. It depends on so many factors and who steps up. Like, for all we know, what if Andre Roberts on the Jets turns out to be like a really good sealer receiver that could make someone like Anderson expendable? Or what if anyone does really good, and let's say Curse comes back, does really good. Let's just say even Terrell Pryor. Let's say Pryor has a big year, and he's only here for a year anyway. You got to give to get something. So I think some kind of scenario like that, maybe with a draft pick with Anderson or draft pick and Powell, will probably get the Jaguars to say, you know what, let's get rid of Fowler and bring someone in that can contribute immediately. Which the Jets will get someone that could also contribute immediately, so it would be like a win-win. But I think it would have to be a really good player. Unfortunately, probably be a household player and a draft pick for Fowler. And for the second part, a true head coach has to have trust. If you don't have trust with your coordinators to get the job done and you're doing their job, then why do you have them on the team? It's as simple as that. It's like that at any job. If you have a manager and if you're constantly doing the work of a supervisor or, dare I say, the work of a full-timer, then something's horribly wrong. You got to take a step back and trust the people you put in positions to do their jobs, get it done right, and you can only get better from there. So I think with the way Bowles has been coaching, especially just going off week one, it's very different from what I've seen before because I think he, like you said, he's just focusing on the greater picture and not trying to give his input on stuff that he's not really in a position of strength to do so. So I like it the way that it is.
So a few comments on what you said. I completely agree with what you're saying. In order to get Fowler, we're going to have to give probably an established guy. Powell is tough because he's going to be on the wrong side of 30 soon. So even if he has a good year, I don't know where his value goes on a Jaguars team where, Leonard Fournette's banged up. But did you see TJ Yeldon last week? They just picked it up right away against a good Giants team. That defense is good. And Yeldon still crushed them, and they didn't change their game plan. I think Robbie Anderson's a little more realistic, but they just had Justin Blackmon in recent history, so I don't know if they're going to go for another guy with off-the-field issues. I really think Terrell Pryor or Jermaine Kearse or even Enunwa, those are three guys I think are more realistic because they do need wide receiver help there. So
that's what I'm thinking too. It's got to be somebody good to get something good, and I think since the Jets got so many receivers anyway, it just makes sense. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's going to pretty much help a big issue because if they get Fowler in this team, and especially that's all these factors that I keep saying. If the Jets are winning football games, and let's say they're like 5 or 6 wins in before the trade deadline, you got to make that move. you got to get the pass rusher because then they could surprise and get another 4 or 5 wins, and then boom, in the playoffs.
Yeah, but Lewis, don't you remember the Jets have a really, really weak receiving core? Didn't you remember that? Hearing that from everyone in the preseason, but us Jets fans going, wait, hold on. We don't have bad receivers. We have crappy tight ends now that we lost to Ferry Jenkins, but no one was saying Jermaine Kearse was bad at all in Seattle. Quincy Enunwa was really good beforehand. Robbie Anderson takes the ceiling off. And, Terrell Pryor had a bad year, but did you see what he did 2 years ago? So it's like that whole entire narrative was just because the team that they were on was in green and white. It had nothing to do with their actual merit. It was an annoying commentary.
I also think that this was going based off the fact that there was like a 90% chance that McCown would start the year. And I think when you have a young, hot, flashy quarterback coming in and this kid can drop dimes and pass well and be accurate and be a leader, it just makes everybody better. And I think that's the biggest thing because I don't know, and I hate to say it, I love Uncle Josh. Uncle Josh is a man. But I don't know if they would have been able to beat the Lions if it was McCown starting instead of Darnell.
Well, I think it had to do with the energy, too. All these young guys were super energetic. And it's not, again, we both like McCown. It's not to take anything away from him, but you know what you're getting out of Josh McCown. You know that he's going to be a solid guy, and if he has a chance to win the game, you really have a 50-50 chance if he screws it up or if he pulls through. There's no mystery about him. With Darnold, there's excitement, there's energy. You saw the way Jamal Adams, he seems like they got along really well, and that's the leader of the defense and now the leader of the offense, and they're both super young. So I think that energy really boosted up the whole team mentality. And another thing with the team that I noticed, I don't know if you did, Todd Bowles over the last 3 years, the team hasn't been super disciplined with him as the head coach, and especially with him taking focus to call defense. It seems like this team was significantly more disciplined, and this is with a brand new offense that has a lot of motion and a true rookie at 21 years old running it. Did you notice that this team just looks significantly more disciplined on every single side?
Oh, yeah, compared to the preseason, because I was worried about that. I thought that the penalties were going to creep up. I still think it's a little bit too early to see if this will continue, but I do like the fact that Bowles probably had a stern conversation with the entire team saying, yeah, we're on Monday Night Football. Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass this franchise. Don't embarrass yourselves by dropping 15 penalties and losing a game that you guys clearly – I mean, they knew they were going to win that game. And I think, because I remember reading that Darren Lee was saying how he literally called a play, and that's exactly what Stafford and the Lions did. So imagine if he did that, got an interception, sorry, you got a false start, or sorry, you got holding. It's embarrassing. And I think they all got together and we got to stop this. We got to make sure we focus and finish. And I think that's a direct reflection of Bowles. So kudos to him for that. And I hope it stays like that, but we'll find out in another 4 or 5 weeks.
Without a doubt. And isn't it funny what a good game does for a player? Darren Lee was on the proverbial chopping block this year because he was basically what Demario Davis was in his first stint as a Jet. Really fast, but lacks every other tool. He's not super strong. He doesn't make the plays in the receiving game that he was supposed to. He's not the sideline guy. And then we see him in this game. He has a pick six or whatever. I think he had the pick six. And then he just did everything right, and I hope that continues to ride. And I agree, it's just one game, but I hope the discipline stays because that would only help Sam Darnold in his development. Now, I'm going to preface this. If this defense continues to play at the level it plays and we don't end up getting Fowler regardless, and Darnold continues to be a rock, the running game is decent, and the line, which looked a lot better than I thought it would, the offensive line continues to play well and protect Sam Darnold. Can this Jets team ride this defense to a playoff, possibly a wild card berth, similar to the way Mark Sanchez did the first 2 years of his existence?
Oh, absolutely. I've always lived by the mantra that defense wins championships. Of course, I'm not saying that, one game the Jets go into the Super Bowl, but I do know for a fact with the NFL being a passing league and it's all about quarterback to receiver and vertical plays and all this other stuff, if their defense can stop really good teams, then, yeah, they can definitely make a playoff run, and they can be very, 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 very good if everything falls into place.
And Louis, don't worry. I will definitely misquote you when I do anything about this, and I'll say, site expert of the Jet Press, Luis Tirado Jr. says, Jets are a championship team after one game. Hot take.
And then
Hot
boom,
take.
boom, 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 50,000 retweets. Done.
Give 50,000. Hey, listen, I think this podcast and the Jet Press will never have more traffic than if that happens.
Booming.
For all the wrong reasons.
And I've always lived by this. I always write what I feel, always from the heart. If I see week 12, week 13, we're in there, we're a few weeks away from the playoffs, and I see this team playing like that would definitely be something I would write for sure.
Louis, if they're playing that well come later this year, I will have you on again, and we will run the hype train.
Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. Again, that's why I love football, and I always tell people, just take it 1 week at a time. But, again, there comes a point where the whole one game at a time, 1 week at a time, it goes out the window. If you're 10-plus games into the season, you won 10, and you're just riding momentum, that's a dangerous thing because we all remember what happens. Any team in the playoffs is a whole different ballgame. Anything can happen.
Oh, yeah, but we're also the Jets, and when we have Brett Favre, and we're the best team in the league after beating the Titans, who were the best team in the league before that, the dude and the staff had a shoulder injury and derailed the whole damn season.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. And then, ironically enough, Sanchez takes us. Yeah.
Sanchez takes us, and that's the same time, and I'm going to get nostalgic here, Leon Washington was arguably the best player in football during that stretch, which is ridiculous to think of right now, considering that I think he still had Thomas Jones in front of him, and Leon Washington was the best player in football for a short time.
And special teams, he did everything. That's the thing. Like, they need players like that. It's a shame that Elijah McGuire got hurt, because I had such high expectations for him. I love the kid. I think he's going to be a really good weapon down the road. But now it's kind of weird because of the ankle injury, and I hate seeing ankle injuries in running backs, because the chance of them being what they were in college in the beginning, it's rough to come back after that.
Yeah, and it's they kind of got a carbon copy in Cannon right behind him, and Cannon, if he can find his legs in the NFL, it really could chance Elijah McGuire's roster spot.
Yeah, that kid Cannon is quick. He's very raw, and I know he's young, he's a rookie. I get it, but like you said, if this kid he's coaching and training, just coach and train, and then hopefully he puts it in his mind together. That kid could be serious. He could be like the next Tyreek Hill on the Jets at running back, for all we know.
He could. And I have a quick question for you, because I'm pretty sure you heard it. I heard it. When the Jets ended up picking Nathan Shepard over in the third round, 72 pick out of Fort Hays State University, no one heard of him. How many Jet fans did you hear going, what are they doing? Who is this dude? And then he shows up, is a starter right away in camp, and was pretty disrupting in the run game in week 1. Have we heard anyone that made any noise right now talking about how good this kid played?
Oh, what it is that the problem with a lot of football fans, and I get this a lot, like with the whole Josh Gordon thing, everybody's like, oh, let's go sign him. We got to bring him out. I'm like, no. When it comes to like football, we're all football fans. You know, I know everybody has different degrees of how much football they know. They can name stuff in the history books. They can name stuff that happened 10 years ago or what happened last year. But at the end of the day, there are professional scouts. There are professional general managers. There are people that know 50 times more than anything I know. And anything that anybody's been writing for like 30, 40, 50 years knows, because that's what they're specialists for. So obviously when the Jets picked a player that nobody heard about, that's part of the draft. Everybody knows the top 4 quarterbacks. Everybody knows the top 3 receivers. But the real winners are the scouts and the GMs that really put hundreds of thousands of hours into scouting reports, watching film, going to games, going to practices, doing background checks, looking at everything you could think of.
Just look at the Patriots and the Seahawks over the last few years. Unbelievable. Exactly. Late talent.
Fans don't get that, because they get upset that they didn't hear the guy. They didn't, because what it is, again, not making fun of everybody, but these are professionals that's all they do.
Yep.
A casual football fan that just watches Sports Center and just reads a couple articles every week, obviously is going to see and read what the popular people say. But at the end of the day, look at what Shepard did. This kid looks like he's brawling, so he's a huge guy, and he came out of nowhere. And look what he's doing. That he can be something big too. Imagine, again, hypothetically speaking, if this kid turns out to be a sack machine, this guy is dropping like 6, 7, 8, 10 sacks this year. Imagine how much easier it'll be for Leonard Williams. You have 2 beasts at the edge coming in, and then Darren Lee has a hot year. Jamal Adams, they have the talent. It's just a matter of just them executing, putting it all together, and again, giving people like Shepard such a role to just do what he does best.
And even if he plugs up the middle like Snacks used to, we missed Damon Harrison over the past few years. If he could just be a middle plug-up guy, because he's a massive human being with athleticism, if he and he's already, you see, he knows how to use his arms and his length already to clog up, so he has that physical ability already there. If he could just become a Snacks Harrison, he already takes away a lot from Williams, because if they line him up on the same side of the ball, they're going to have to pick who they're going to double team. So it's a difficult situation. If he turns out to continue to play the way he has, he's not going to fill up a stat sheet, but the impact he's going to have on that defensive line is tremendous.
Oh, it's going to be huge. And then that's what the Jets are hoping for. Again, professional scouts, professional GMs, they've done all this research. They know who they draft.
Yeah, yes, but that guy on the Fan, when he called in on WFAN, he didn't, he disagreed with it, and he calls every week.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Again, everybody has their different opinions, but I always tell people, leave it to the pros. I would never know how to I write about the draft every year. I do draft profiles on hundreds of different athletes. I'm not going to know an eyelash of the information that people that do this for a National Football League professional team. That's why someone like Shepard and, like you said, the Seahawks, that's a perfect example. They got people you will never hear of, but then they're starters, then they're Pro Bowlers, then they're All-Stars, then they're the best of the best, and that comes from good scouting.
Yeah, so let's do that for a second. Let's either criticize or agree with the pros. What did you think of the Teddy Bridgewater trade?
I thought it was smart at the time because, I mean, here's the thing. The Jets always play games at quarterback. Every year, you got 4 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. This is a clear-cut, 100% all in on the Sam Darnold train to give him the ability to not have the whole Sanchez, Tebow nonsense because devil's advocate, let's say they kept Bridgewater. And let's just say 3 or 4 games into the year because Darnold is a rookie. He's going to come crashing onto earth. It's going to happen. He's going to get hit. He's going to get, frazzled. It's going to happen. It's just part of life and it's part of being a rookie. Can you imagine all the talks of, hey, let's start Bridgewater? Hey, let's start him. Let's start him. Come on, let's put McCown back in.
Especially New York fans. Especially New York fans.
It happens all the time. The minute Darnold has one, it's going to happen. He has one back in. Let's just say the Browns beat the Jets to get their first win in like 10 years or whatever. And if they pick Darnold 4 times, Bridgewater's, oh my God, he killed it in the preseason. He's on the team. He's just wasting time doing practice, wasting time on the bench. Everybody will be just demanding a quarterback switch because they're going to say that, put Darnold on the bench, let him learn, put Bridgewater in. And I think for them to trade Bridgewater was very smart because it says, look, you know for a fact that we still don't know if Bridgewater can still play effectively at a starting NFL level. Preseason football is cute, but it's not the real football. That I tell people all the time. Okay, fine. He's playing against literally vanilla defenses, against people that are going to be future UPS drivers after they get cut.
Yep.
You cannot compare that to a National Football League starting defense that he's going to get destroyed when he's playing top-tier teams. That's why the Jets were smart and said, look, before something happens where they have to play Bridgewater and he does bad, they're not going to get anything from him. What are they going to get? Nothing. At least now, I mean, dude, it's a draft pick. Good. For a player that you just brought in to kind of give morale and help out, Darnold and be like a good veteran presence, like that little window of the month and change he was here was huge for Darnold, easily. Because he got to work in a quarterback's room where 2 established, high-quality, veteran NFL quarterbacks. That's a beautiful thing.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more. I came on record agreeing with you completely.
Thank you. It's true. That's just how I saw it. And then, I love Bridgewater. I think he's going to be great because maybe he doesn't have to play this year. I mean, he's behind Drew Brees. The man doesn't get hurt. The man doesn't miss football games. Let's just say he retires in a year or 2 from now. That could be his next future team. The Saints could very well have their next franchise quarterback for the next decade. Maybe. We don't know. But at the end of the day, we all know Darnold is the guy for the Jets. They will ride, sink, or swim with this kid as long as they have to, and they're going to put him in a situation to thrive because there's no quarterback controversy. You're not going to go back to McCown. It's all set. If he gets hurt, okay, you got McCown. He can go in, and then you see from that. I don't think he's going to get hurt. God forbid, not going. But at the end of the day, that just makes more sense from a football and a confidence point of view.
Yeah, I honestly, like I said, I've agreed with you. All the points you made are points that I've made, and I made them on this podcast in past episodes. And some other things that I've heard or people have said to me is, well, quarterbacks go down and teams get desperate. And I'm like, yeah. And then they bring up Sam Bradford and his trade. And I was like, okay, let's pause for a second. Teams get desperate for established quarterbacks that have played. Sam Bradford is injury-ridden, but the man has played, I think, every single year before his injury. And when he plays, he normally has his teams in pretty good positions. He's a talented dude. So he's worth taking a flyer on and giving up a first and a third. It's worth that. Secondly, like you said, Bridgewater hasn't played in 2 years. His injury was career-threatening. And he was playing against a bunch of dudes who were either going to get cut or special teamers. He wasn't playing against anybody special that he was tearing up in any way, shape, or form. So the whole entire, and then they say, well, they're going to be desperate and they're going to give up a lot. His value was never higher than it was when they traded him. Because the moment they announced Sam Darnold was a starter, his value plummeted completely.
Yep, and they knew that. And here's the thing, though. Again, professional scouts, professional GM. How do we know that maybe he didn't get hurt again? Or how do we know maybe they saw, because remember, a lot of these training camps were closed to the public and media. Strict. You had no cell phones in there, nothing. Like, that's how OD they went to make sure that nobody saw any behind-the-scenes plays or formations or injuries or anything like that. For all we know, maybe McCagnon and I don't know the guy, the Saints GM, but maybe those two, I'm sure they're BFFs, they text, and they probably have a beer once in a while. And how do you know that he just didn't say, hey, look, this kid's not going to play this year because he's hurt, but give him a year. He can learn from Breeze. He could be something special. We don't know what the parameters of that trade was. Nobody will ever know. That's why you always got to take everything with a grain of salt. Anytime you read anything on the internet, you never know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, they made the right deal for the right price to get something back to build a future for the team. That's all that matters.
And another thing you'll get a laugh at is, they threw in a 6th round pick as a sweetener, and Jets fans have problems with that. The fact that, they threw in a sweetener, why would they do that for just the 3rd round? I was like, are you serious? In essence, they got back, they didn't get back a 2nd rounder that they traded, but they got back something out of the second, the 2nd rounders that they gave away. And a 6th round pick, you're going to cry over that? And they're like, 6th round picks have been good before. But how many? How many can you count out of the millions of guys who've been drafted?
Anything that's past the 5th round, I'm talking mid 5th round, those guys ain't making teams. You're lucky if you're in practice squad. You're lucky if you're on special teams. If that.
But it's just so Jets to complain about that. You have something good and you complain.
I think a lot of fans want a 1st round pick and like a starting defensive end or something for Bridgewater. And that's another thing, and I tell people all the time. This kind of ties into fantasy football. Never go based on a player's name. Yeah. I told people for the longest time, Terrell Pryor was a good wide receiver. He wasn't great. He was good. He was a good player on a pretty bad Browns team 2 years ago. He did nothing last year, remotely anything to talk about. I know he has some pretty decent numbers, but he didn't really do much.
He was not the impact guy that he once was.
Exactly. But then Jets fans lost their minds when I wrote that he probably wouldn't make the team.
And he was on the cusp.
Yeah.
Because Hansen was almost...
there's no way he's going to make the team. I'm like, you're going based off his name. If you look at the stats and you look at the time he missed, and I just made up a name like Barker, you would be like, no, he doesn't deserve a spot. But the only reason the Jets kept him was, again, like you said, a lot of teams, we take a flyer on him, see how he does. I don't think he's going to do much of anything this year. I think, if anything, Andre Roberts is the guy to watch. I think that kid's going to be really good.
People don't realize how close Hansen was to making the team over Pryor. Yeah, Hansen was right there. They were both borderline cuts.
Yeah, but, that's these Jets fans, they get upset because they were like, no, but this kid's going to be, oh, my God, him and Darnell. I'm like, forgetting Robbie Anderson. You're forgetting Quinton. I know you're forgetting Jermaine Kearse. Tell me what is he going to do? He might spell relief on, a player or two, but then even then, they're probably going to emphasize more than tight ends because, like you said, they're not that good. Maybe they get some reps. Maybe they get, some ability to make some plays. You get a little more out of the positional group, and you go from there. But, Jets fans, they get very upset when you hit them with, hey, it's just a 6th-round pick. Hey, it's just a receiver that's hurt. He's not going to be 100% probably the whole year now. And then let me know what he does when it's cold, when it's snowing or raining and 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do.
And, and to your point with, just the names, fantasy-wise, I just picked up a kid by the name of Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't know if many people outside of really football lovers know who the hell that kid is. Didn't have a great week in week 1 for the Cardinals, but you look at numbers here. He played 49 out of 53 snaps as a rookie. He didn't have a great week. That's all I needed to know. That they believed in him that much. He doesn't have a big name. He's not unbelievable yet, but he also has a guy, Sam Bradford, throwing him the football who loves tight ends. And if you're giving him that much reps in terms of snaps, where he got almost all the snaps, the ball's going to find him. And for all intents and purposes, a talented kid. He was good in college. So there you go. Name recognition isn't always a game.
He's never, people, and that's the problem that a lot of people have when it comes to the Jets. Because again, a 6th-round pick is nothing. That's nothing. It's like Pryor. All right, he's all right. He's not groundbreaking that any other receivers the Jets got. Even Kearse, who's dealing with that abdomen injury, he'll probably get more passes coming his way than Pryor. And on top of that, if you look behind the politics of it all, I'm pretty sure Bowles is still upset that he went to the media and told him about the injury. And again, you can't, it's a huge no-no team clubhouse rule or whatever. How do we know that the ankle injury isn't limiting him in what he's trying to do? Who knows? It's crazy.
There's a lot. And I want to move on to just overall NFL talk, but I think we're both going to agree that I think Kearse will seamlessly find his way onto this team. He's a talented kid, great route runner, possession receiver. Quincy Enunwa is obviously the guy. Darnold had great chemistry with him. Robbie Anderson's going to be the deep threat. He'll play the Torrey Smith, but I think with a lot more talent than Torrey Smith. And Curse is just good. I think Curse will be the third down guy. He's going to look for a none with first on third. If he's not open, the head's going to go to Curse. He's that good of a route runner. So that's where I think Curse will fit in.
Oh, definitely guaranteed. Because, again, like the Jets wide receiver core, they're so bad, as everybody said, but they have the talent. It's just when you get, like I said, a young rookie, hotshot quarterback in there, he makes everybody good, and they're going to get their passes.
I just hope Curse's fingers are ready because, God damn, Darnold has a strong arm.
Yes. That is 21 years young.
Exactly, has a lot of throwing to do. So we're going to go on to just Week 1 talk in general because Week 1 was weird. It was a really, really, the scores were weird. The teams that were close were weird. Like, the blowouts were wrong. The games that were close shouldn't have been close. The wins, it's just weird. I'm going to start off. Just going to kind of do a rundown. Anyone that didn't really get to watch. Eagles beat the Falcons 18-12 in a stupid game, really. The Falcons just didn't show up.
Fell asleep at the end, huh?
Yeah, Falcons didn't show up. The Bengals beat the Colts in a game where it looked like Andrew Luck was under control, and then out of nowhere, Dalton just remembered he plays football. And he's pretty damn good at it.
Oh, yeah.
The Ravens dismantled the Bills. Nathan Peterman will go down in history as worse than Ryan Leaf. I swear to God, he's terrible.
Yeah, I laughed when they said that Peterman was going to be the starter. I'm like, wasn't that the same guy that was like one of the worst quarterbacks ever?
5 interceptions in the first half of his only game. It was outlandishly bad. This one threw me for a curve. The Buccaneers and Ryan Fitzpatrick...
My man.
48 points in Louisiana against New Orleans at home in a dome, beating Drew Brees, who almost came back and almost pulled his magic. But the Buccaneers went nuts. The Texans made a game out of it against the Patriots, which the Patriots last few years have started off slow anyway. We'll probably see a loss or two within these next 4 weeks, but they just always do that early in the season for some reason. And then they lose Gronkowski, and then they win every game after that. I don't know how the hell that works.
It's Gronk, man.
The Niners disappointed me with Garoppolo, but the Vikings are really good. The Vikings won that game. The Dolphins won a football game. Might be the only one they win this year against the Titans. The Jags offense was terrible, beating the Giants 20-15 with a Giants team that just couldn't figure out a way around that defense. I don't know if you could tell the way I feel about Blake Bortles. I like him as a guy. I think he's awful.
Yeah, no, he's not a good quarterback. He probably won't have that job for long, the way that they're going.
The Steelers showed that they need Le'Veon Bell in the worst way. They tied the Browns, who aren't the Browns that your grandfather rooted for. They're a good team, actually, this year, I think. But still, to tie them is embarrassing for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes showed that he was good for at least a game, just like Sam Darnold did. Now, everyone thinks Patrick Mahomes is the next Joe Montana. He beat a good Chargers team.
Savior.
Cowboys... Dak Prescott was as inaccurate as Nathan Peterman, and they lost to the Panthers in a really boring game, 16-8. Skins beat the Cardinals 24-6. There's really nothing there. Alex Smith was Alex Smith.
Yep.
Broncos found the quarterback with Case Keenum, beat a Seahawks team who I think is going to be abysmal this year. Aaron Rodgers limped to a win against the Bears, who should have won that game.
That was a great game.
The Jets just did Jets things and went psycho. 48-17, and the Rams beat the Raiders when the Raiders looked like they were going to win in the first quarter. So out of those games, which game stood out to you?
I really thought that the Steelers and Browns game was hilarious because a part of me, I'm not a Browns fan. I mean, I like the Steelers. They're like my second favorite team, only because I'm a fan of like just that power running style from the Jerome Bettis days, and I love Le'Veon Bell. And I think it's hilarious that they don't want to, fix the whole Bell situation. They think they'll be all right. But you just got tied by the Cleveland Browns.
And they tried to prove a point with handing the ball to James Conner 31 times, who played very well, but that was to prove a point, and the point wasn't proven because you tied. You didn't prove anything. You proved you needed Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly. This is one of those cases where it's like you're trying to get over a relationship, and you're like, I'm good. I'm just not going to, recognize the elephant in the room, and then you try to date someone else, but then you're still texting the same person.
And it's also like you're dating someone else, and she's all right. She's good looking, but she's not. She's not as good looking as the girl you're with. And then the girl you're with walks into the bar alone, and you're like, honey, I got to go to the bathroom right quick. And then you walk right up to that girl at the bar, and you're like, I want you to have this drink, but I don't know if I want to pay for it anymore. We're not together. And she's like, wait, what the hell? Then get away from me.
She's still in the background.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous because what happens if the Steelers lose the next 3 or 4 games? Because let me tell you, Bell was the Steelers. It all revolved around him. But when he got that football, he did amazing things. He caught the football. He did everything. And they don't want to pay him. So, it is what it is. And I think they're going to regret that decision because every passing day that a deal doesn't happen is just them becoming even more far apart.
Now, does this look bad for the Antonio Browns, the Juju Smith-Schusters, Ben Roethlisberger, that they had to turn around and hand the ball? I know it was raining, the weather was bad, but this isn't the first time that the Steelers played in the rain, and Ben Roethlisberger has giant hands. He throws the ball well in the rain. Does this look bad for that receiving core? AB got paid. Juju Smith-Schuster was a sensation and is a talented kid. Ben Roethlisberger, I don't like the way he plays, but he has the success behind him. This looks bad for them because those dudes got taken, AB got taken care of, Big Ben's taken care of, but without Lev to open them up, they couldn't win. That's just the bottom line.
Because you need more. Like, that team is predicated again with the run. If you don't have don't get me wrong, Connor, I want to say, is a slightly above average running back. He's talented.
He's a nice back.
Le'Veon Bell is extraordinary. Like, he will win you 8 games just on his own legs.
Now, how do you feel about the Le'Veon Bell rumor that possibly he could end up a Jet if things don't happen the way he wants to? Because he's on the record saying he's a Jets fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to predict because anything can happen. So, we could wake up on Monday morning and read that the Steelers and Bell came to an agreement, and then that's it, like a 5-year deal or whatever. I will say, though, that if this continues, the likelihood of him going back to the Steelers is probably nil. And I think either they're going to have to do something, either do like a blockbuster trade. And again, if you're the Jets, there's so many things that can happen within these next few weeks before the trade deadline. Because if you're the Jets and if you're winning football games, Darnold's dropping bombs and they're winning, and let's say they go undefeated like 5 or 6 weeks into the season, which could happen. You never know. It could happen. Do you pull the trigger to get a Le'Veon Bell?
Now, the question is, for Lev, are you willing to give up a Marcus May and possibly a first round in the future? Because that's the asking price. Is someone in Marcus May, Jamal Adams talent level with another high draft pick or two? Because that's how good Lev is.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Every NFL, you got to give to get. And I love Marcus May, but I love Jamal Adams more. And if you got one great safety, you can draft another, get another in free agency. But if you have an opportunity to get a centerpiece on offense for your new rookie quarterback with a receiver like Robbie Anderson, and you're building talent onto that team, you got to do it. You got to do it. As much as we love May and Adams and these guys give them the next decade or
New Jack City.
Yeah, New Jack City. What happens if May gets hurt? What if he has a bad year? Then what do you do?
It's egg on their face for not going after it.
Exactly. That's why I tell people you got to look at what the team's doing. You got to look at this because the Jets need more offensive playmakers. And at the rate they're going, they're going to need another receiver. They're going to need a better tight end. They're going to need a better offensive line. And I hate to tell you, they probably need to get a better running back because Powell's going to be gone after this year. Quawell could be good, but I think he's either on a 1 or 2. I think he's on a 1-year deal. What do you have after that? Elijah McGuire has a messed up foot. So if you think about it, maybe the Jets do want to get a premier OMG running back to go. Imagine Darnold, Bell, Anderson, your new triplets on offense, and you get some more people, more veteran presence in other positions. It's game over. That could be a top 10 offense.
Yeah, they really could. They could be, and that would be a complete switch from the Jets. We haven't had a top-flight offense. I'm not going to count Favre because he screwed us with him and the training staff. Yeah. I'm mad at them. But it was like the Testaverde times. It was the last time our offense was truly high-powered when it was Lavernius Coles, Keyshawn Johnson, Curtis Martin. Like, that offense was feared. And Richie Anderson, I will never forget Richie Anderson. I don't care who Richie Anderson was the best fullback running back of all time. The dude gave up being a starting tailback because Curtis Martin came through and became the smallest fullback ever and did well.
And that's all. Exactly. And like you said, you will win football games when you have a stacked offense. Yeah. So, again, if I got to get rid of a starting safety to get Le'Veon Bell and a first-round draft pick and maybe even more, you do it. Because that'll set Bell. I mean, I know he's 30 years old, but he has at least 5 or 6 more really good years in. And that's the window that the Jets are getting back in the playoffs. Guaranteed.
Completely. The game that stood out to me this week was Denver versus Seattle. And I know Seattle, I think, is going to have a really down year because they've just lost guys left and right on that defensive secondary and that defense in general that made them so feared. Russell Wilson with Doug Baldwin going down. He has Tyler Lockett and Brandon Marshall as his two main guys. And the running game isn't what it used to be either with Carson and Penny back there. They're going to struggle. That team is going to struggle. Carroll's a good coach. Wilson's a good player. It's going to look better than it actually is because of those two. But they're not going to be a good football team. I don't think so. They might shock us. But
they regress.
What the Broncos I saw from them is Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders have been very average over the past few years when they were struggling to really find the quarterback with the end of the Peyton Manning era. Brock Osweiler just being miserable. Trevor Siemian being bad. All these guys not being good. And then Case Keenum comes in. And that offense just looks grounded. It's not going to go and he's not going to throw for 500, 4 touchdowns. It's never going to be that overly explosive. But with that defense that they have there, with picking Bradley Chubb and then Von Miller on the other side, they still have a decent secondary. That I was on with my buddy Craig Lepper not too long ago. He's a big Broncos fan. And I said, this team isn't a team with 11-5 talent, but they can also go 7-9, 8-8. They're a really weird team. If Case Keenum can just be solid like that, they're now trending on that 11-5 level. I really like what the Broncos did early in that first week.
I agree. That was I didn't get to watch that game. I just see some of the highlights, and I definitely agree. I think because he's a game manager, and if you get a good game manager on the center, you're good.
He's a game manager, though, with a little more. Because he's not just your typical, we don't want you to make any throws that you shouldn't make, because he has a very good arm. He can make every throw, and he does make some gutsy throws. But it's weird, because Demaryius Thomas, if he continues to not drop the ball, because his biggest thing is, he'll go and he'll make the Odell Beckham type catch. But then he'll have a slant where there's guys playing off of him 33 yards, and he'll drop it. And it's like, are you in the pros? Like, who do you play for? Like, who are you? What's wrong with you? And then Emmanuel Sanders, for the last few years, he's looked slow. And then we look at him this game, and even in some of the highlights, he's cruising around like he's Emmanuel Sanders still wearing black and gold. Like, the dude looked young. So it's like, okay, is this a case where Case Keenum, young, energetic, and obviously these veterans really like what they saw out of him in camp. So he looks like he's energized his team, and I really... For Broncos fans, again, my buddy Craig Lepper, my other buddy Kyle Royce, they're both big Broncos fans. This has to be positive for them to see this team, this offense actually playing football. They haven't done it the last few years.
Oh yeah, and like you said, the Broncos are ironically my third favorite team.
Hey.
I fell in love with them back in 1998. The whole John Elway, Terrell
TD
Davis,
baby.
I love that phase.
Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey, God, that team was loaded. Loaded.
Oh yeah. And I when the Broncos play good football, it's always fun to watch. I love Mile High Stadium. And yeah, I think then it's hard to say. It's not really inconsistency. It's just more of, I want to use the analogy of like turning on a switch. Some days you turn it on, some days you kind of forget to turn it on, but it still is kind of ready to go, but not always. So that's the analogy I'm going to use.
I like it. So for you, it's way too early to ask you of this, but this is what we do in doing sports podcasts and writing and all this nonsense. Who is your sleeper playoff team in the AFC and NFC?
Oof.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, you're going to hate me.
Do a little thinking here, right?
Yeah.
And for the NFC, right,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, all right, well, let me do the AFC. I got the AFC. AFC, I'm going to predict, because I think the Browns, after all these years of just not doing much of anything, I think this is the year they turn it around. Look at it like this. Did you really think that they could have got a tie against the Steelers? And even if Le'Veon Bell did play, I still think they probably would have won. And I say that because this team is hungry. I am a Hard Knocks guy, so I was watching the whole season with the Browns. I think depending on how things go in that division, because the Ravens, they got grounded yesterday.
Now, question, quickly. The Browns just cut Josh Gordon today. Does that affect your decision?
I think so, because here's the thing. When it comes to Josh Gordon, it's the same thing with Robbie Anderson. You only give people so many chances to actually, improve, you know? Like, when you look at the fact that they gave this kid, I don't know how many chances, at least like 3 or 4 chances.
But listen, if I'm the Jets, I'm taking a 1-year flyer on Josh Gordon because if he can come back to 50% of what he was, he's a top 15 receiver.
See, that's the thing. It's hard because, yes, he's talented. Yes, he can be an extremely good team. The only thing is he can be an extremely good wide receiver on any team he's on. The only thing is that you take a risk on someone that consistently has made all the wrong decisions.
You want to put him and Robbie Anderson in the same locker room.
Yeah, no, you can't do it. And I think when the Browns made that statement, saying, you know what, we're done, that tells me that they're serious. And I'm telling you, this team on paper, they have so much talent.
But you know what, though, Lewis? You know why I hate the Browns for this? Because you know who's going to pick him up, right?
Oh, Mr. Bill Belichick?
Yeah, and you know he is just going to sit there, and it's going to be like Corey Dillon. It's going to be like Randy Moss. It's going to be like all these dudes who... Corey Dillon, people don't forget, the dude was a top 3 running back on the Bengals, an awful Bengals team, but he had issues. He was not the best guy. He comes to the Patriots, and I swear they made him go to a monastery for the offseason, become a monk, and come back. Because the dude had no problems. Crazy. So that's who's going to pick him up. It's going to be the Patriots, and he's going to have 100 catches, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. It's going to be stupid.
I think, I don't know anything about what happened. I do know they cut him, and there was something that Bleacher Report said that he looked weird when he was in training camp. I think something's going to come out probably either tomorrow, really early in the morning, or on Monday, really early in the morning, that he probably went back to whatever substance abuse he was doing, and I think that'll be it for him. I think that might be what happened. Because other than that, then I read that he messed up his Achilles or something like that from a photo shoot. I don't know. Yeah,
that's what I just read, that he had injured that on it was an off photo shoot. It's supposed to be like a promo in terms of his comeback. If that's the case, then I kind of feel bad for him because he was the only guy to catch a touchdown from Tyrod Taylor in week 1. It was a great catch.
Yeah, that's, it happens. But I still think them cutting him sent a statement that they're serious about their organization, they're serious about the locker room, and I really like Hugh Jackson as a head coach. I just think that once they get that first win out the way, it's going to have a ripple effect. And I love Tyrod Taylor. I can't believe the Bills got rid of him, but okay, thank you, because he's not in the division anymore.
But he played awful in the first game. He did not want to throw the football.
And that leads me to the next point. The minute Mr. Baker Mayfield gets that team, it's the same effect as Sam Darnold. It's going to be revitalizing and revolutionary. And I think when you get a competitor like Mayfield in there and he does what he did in college now, I think they're going to be a scary team. And it's crazy to predict the Browns in the playoffs. But again, the Ravens, the Steelers, good luck with the whole Le'Veon Bell thing. And they can move up quick in that division, and they can win games. And if they get Mayfield in there, once Taylor gets God forbid hurt, or if he just plays bad a couple more weeks into the season, I think Hugh Jackson will make the switch. I think he'll just pull that switch and then just run wild. And then I think that'll be when they make some serious noise.
That's my pick. So what's funny out of the AFC? Great minds might think alike because I picked Cleveland too.
Yeah. So, same reason? You think? Well, let me ask you. Is it going to be the Browns with Taylor, or is it going to be when they make that big switch to Mayfield?
It will be Baker. And I have 2 theories on why Taylor isn't throwing the football. One, I think he wants out of Cleveland. And I think he's trying to show his athletic ability and just enough of his arm that he's going to trade him somewhere where it's a good situation, where he can compete, and he can try and get the starting job. Because I do think he's much better. He's shown he can throw the ball. So last week, I have no idea what the hell he was doing. It didn't look like Tyrod Taylor at all last week. But I also really like the makeup of this team because even without Josh Gordon, Antonio Callaway is a super talented, underrated wide receiver. David Njoku is a very good tight end. Darren Fells is a very good tight end. Joe Albertino is a Pro Bowl left guard. They have a good line, not great line. With losing the best left tackle in football doesn't help, but they have a good line and they have enough weapons. And like you said, I like Baker. And then when you take Taylor, say Taylor gets traded, Baker moves up, Drew Stanton's a super viable backup, and if anything happens to Baker. So this team, I agree. I think I officially predicted 8-8 for them, but I could see 9-7, 10-6 if things go right.
And that'll get them in.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the Steelers are going to have a big year. I hate to say it. I don't think the Ravens, everybody's always on this Ravens train until they get hit with reality like yesterday. It's just not a good team. he can't compete when it comes to teams like that.
Exactly.
And I think they could surprise. Now, my pick for the NFC, it's only because of the Khalil Mack trade. Man, those Bears, whew, I can't wait. I think that's my sleeper team to go back into the playoffs. I'm a Trubisky guy. I like Trubisky. I think he has to kind of turn on the Jets a little bit, and I think once he gets into that rhythm, he can be a very good quarterback. And I'm a little concerned because the Packers, I love Aaron Rodgers. I think he's definitely one of my favorite quarterbacks I've seen in the past decade or so. But my man cannot keep getting hit, messing up like half his body, and then limping back on the field and leading his team to win. You know?
Yeah, that's not a good way to live.
Not a good way to live, especially week one. Yeah. And then I think the Vikings are a powerhouse. I think they're going to be a good team. But I just think if the Bears, that defense, Mac is just ridiculous. And he is like a quarterback to have on defense.
It's just crazy. He had a career day, and the last guy to do what he did was him 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It's stupid.
It's stupid. And I think the Bears bringing him into the mix, that changes the whole organization. And I'm telling you, when they get into that rhythm and they have a lot of underrated players, I think they can surprise us. I know the Lions ain't doing nothing. They're not going to do nothing. And it's just the Vikings, I think, will be the powerhouse of that division. But the NFC's weird. The Seahawks don't have a good year, which I agree with you. I don't think they will. That's a playoff spot. You just got to win 9-10 games and see where the chips fall.
Yeah, there's a lot of strength in the NFC. My sleeper pick, I already said that I think they're going to be a playoff team for the NFC. I think the 49ers. Yeah, they lost to the Vikings. The Vikings are a really good team. They are a Super Bowl hopeful team. They should have probably been there last year. But
yeah.
The Niners, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. He got his first loss officially as a starter last week against a good team. But I just like Jimmy Garoppolo. Goodwin's hurt. He's not playing this week, and that's one of his main targets. But overall, I just think they have a lot of good weapons, and I think he's the type of quarterback that he's going to be able to will teams to win. He made some mistakes. He threw that game-ending interception when he was trying to force some excitement in the game. But I like the kid's makeup, and I like that defense. I think that defense is sneaky good. So I think the 49ers are going to be the other team in the NFC coming in. And again, like we said, the Seahawks are having a down year. The Rams are very, very good out there. And who's the fourth team out there? I'm drawing a blank.
So we got the Rams, the 49ers.
The Raiders. And the Raiders have no defense.
Yep. Yeah, and they shipped their defense out. And, man, Gruden's going to be in for a rude awakening. Oh, man, it's exciting. I really like John Gruden as a coach. As a commentator, he's one of the best in the business. But why he went back to coaching.
$100 million is why he went back to coaching.
But, I mean, the thing is, and the Cardinals. We got the Cardinals.
Yeah, well, I was just going to correct myself. It's not the Raiders, it's the Cardinals. But you can interchange them. They're both bad teams.
Yeah, they're both bad teams. And I think Gruden, he's probably going to get fired like 10 or 12 games into the year when they're 0-11 or 0 because the Raiders are bad. And what it is that he's using stuff that worked a decade ago now, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't use the stuff that worked when he won a Super Bowl many years ago.
Now, to play devil's advocate, that defense was bad with or without Khalil Mack because that secondary is Swiss cheese. The offense is decent, but the wide receivers aren't able to get separation for some reason. Martavius Bryant was a decent flyer to take. I don't know why he got killed for that. The dude wasn't doing nothing in Pittsburgh. He took a flyer. It didn't work out. But if you're looking at this from a Gruden perspective, if the ownership told him, we gave you a 10-year contract, you got at minimum 4 or 5, get this team back. Wouldn't you do exactly what you said? You got to trade a good asset to get back a good haul. He asked for 2 first-rounders, which was outlandish. He got 2 first-rounders from a Bears team that could be decent or could be bad, depending on Mitchell Trubisky. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, if Gruden got the green light to say, you have 2 bad years, 3rd year you need to start showing something, wouldn't you have made the same exact deal?
Yeah, of course. Because, here's the thing. What Gruden did, I think, was an abysmal mistake. I think I get it because I know you want to rebuild in the future. But Khalil Mack is arguably one of the top defenders, and I don't even say his position because he can do anything, and he can be disruptive, and he can hit you in so many different ways. You don't let go of a player like that. Imagine how would you feel if Darnold doing amazing things? This kid wins eight. Let's say, devil's advocate, wins 8 games this year. They missed the playoffs, just missed the playoffs, but Kid is on a rise. He throws for like 25 touchdowns, maybe like 4 interceptions. He has like a phenomenal season. And then the second year, he does the same thing. But then let's just say in the third year, for some stupid reason, the Jets want to trade him to get 2 first-round picks back. Can you imagine the uproar or what happened when it comes like this? Khalil Mack, I know he's not a quarterback, but he is arguably as important to a team on a defense as a quarterback is for offense. So imagine the uproar people would have if the Jets did that. Because if I was a Raiders fan, and I'm sure a lot of them have Mac jerseys, a whole bunch of them do, and you wake up one morning and you see that they traded him for pretty much nothing. Because I get it, 2 first-round picks, big to have, but it's not like you traded someone that was all right. You traded probably a once-in-a-decade defender. So I think that's going to hit them hard. I think Gruden, he's not going to have a job. I know it's a 10-year deal, but man, if he makes moves like this, I don't know if he lasts the full 10 years. I think he might get the axe if they lose like a bunch of games straight. And I'm talking like embarrassing lose. Oh, he's done.
That might come true, but just my devil's advocate, and I tend to agree with you about it, but just my devil's advocate about that is, you look at the Raiders, that defense was devoid of talent outside of Khalil Mack. That would be saying put Sam Darnold on the team that Geno Smith was quarterbacking. Or, you know what I mean? How that offense was abysmal, and it was, if Geno was ever talented, we would have no idea because he couldn't really show it. Even though Khalil Mack has more ability to show it in his position, the rest of that Raiders defense is bad. But then take the flip side, where the Jets have always had a decent defense. Flip side that, where the defense wasn't performing either. And that's what Khalil Mack's situation was. He was really the only guy performing on the Raiders.
Exactly.
And
consistently.
And in that instance, what are you building around? Can you really build around Khalil Mack's unbelievable at what he does, but is it more worth trying to get weapons for David Carr, who was very good 2 years ago, and building a real defense by getting picks for this kid? Again, I tend to agree with you for Khalil Mack, but I'm just, to make logic out of it, why keep this kid in this situation right there?
That's old school logic. And then
I'm an old school guy.
Yeah, like the way he said it was kind of interesting too, because he said, well, nobody thinks about it, but Khalil Mack didn't want to be here. People forget that. I don't know. Again, I don't follow the Raiders like I do the Jets, but I'm sure it was something where both sides probably didn't want that to happen. But what's done is done. And, like you said, if you want to build a championship team, you need draft picks. So I get that argument. I do agree to a degree. I just think that, man, if I had Khalil Mack on the Jets, that guy would not be traded for anything. You keep him on there until he can't play anymore.
But that's like saying we have Khalil Mack with a bunch of Vernon Golstons hanging around him. Would you still want? Would you exactly? But would you still want Khalil Mack, or if you could sit there and get some good picks for him, you'd be like, "Yo, Khalil, I love you. You've been great, but go wear another jersey and win some games, man." Like that's the mentality. You know what I mean? That
is true. I definitely agree. And again, we'll find out. That could be work. That could be what saves Gruden's job in a couple of years, when 3-4 years, if he's still there. 3-4 years go by and see what those first rounders got him, and if they develop to field a competitive team. So we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. So we're going to jump into something that you told me that I guess you were kind of iffy when I asked you, because I know you're a football guy, but I kind of asked you like, what other sports? And you were iffy about mentioning this, and then I think when I was like, man, I consider that a sport, you kind of perked up. Because something that pissed me off, because I listen to sports talk radio. I don't know if you do, but I listen to The Fan. I listen to ESPN radio. And one thing that always annoys me, and these dudes sound really old when they talk about it, is people will bring up eSports and they'll bring up video games. And all of a sudden they'll do, isn't the fun of video games to play it? Why would you want to sit around and watch somebody do it? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, how stupid can these dudes be? Their job is to literally talk about watching people do exactly what they could do if they wanted to, just not at that level. I don't get how they can't get this. It's the same exact concept. Yes, I enjoy playing Madden, but I'm not half as good as some of these dudes that play it at a pro level, so I get enjoyment watching them play it. And if you're watching these esports teams, they are insanely talented. The things they can do on Call of Duty, the things they can do when they play individual in Street Fighter, it's like they are thinking of combos or they're working as a squad, and it's just ridiculous. And I don't know much about it. I kind of watch it here and there when I can, but it just annoys me that they don't. I consider esports as much of a sport as anything else because it takes strategy, it takes skill, it takes time, it takes practice. Everything that a sport is, esports has. And this old mentality of, well, I don't get how that could be entertaining. Well, you can go and put pads on and play football too. Doesn't mean you're going to be any good at it. You probably go shoot hoops in the gym. Doesn't mean you're going to go beat a broke down Derrick Rose who would still make you look stupid. Like, it annoys me that.
I tell people the analogy of, if you think of it like this, right? So you have people that play a sport at a professional level.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play the sport, but there's nothing stopping you from going to like a league to learn how to play and get good. But can you put on a uniform? Like, I use basketball because I think football is extremely demanding physically. Basketball, it is to a degree, but not as much as football. But you still got to be fit. You still got to be tall. You still got to be quick, athletic, all that stuff. What's stopping you from not, going to Madison Square Garden, knock on, the next door, and be like, hey, can I play starting basketball with you guys? It doesn't work like that.
Well, starting point guard because they need one.
Hey, that too. And like, when people make fun of esports, it's only because they don't know that, like you just said perfectly, it requires so much skill, so much talent. You need to work together. It's depending on the game that you play. And a little fun fact, like a lot of people that give me that nonsense about, oh, well, who wants to watch kids playing video games? More people watched the League of Legends Worlds Tournament last year than combining the NBA and NHL finals. You can combine those two, and it didn't equal not even half of the people that watched the League of Legends Tournament, which, mind you, was not on television. It was on Twitch. And
now, I want to ask you, because this is going to make me sound super nerdy, and I hope you're kind of in this nerdy realm with me, but not many people are. Did you watch Video Game High School at all? Because that was basically a show dedicated to gaming. And did you watch that show? And it was basically esports in its infancy, basically, there.
Yeah, I wish it was still around. I wish they had G4 TV still and all those great
Oh, my God.
content.
G4 had some of the best content. Attack of the Show was so great.
Oh, yeah. And it was fun. It was entertaining. Like, and not for nothing, like, what gets me really upset, again, with the whole esports stuff, is they'll put poker on ESPN.
And bowling, and darts, and cheerleading. And I'm not going to say cheerleading, because cheerleading is a sport. I will fight with anyone. Competition cheerleading is a hell of a sport.
They'll put that on ESPN prime time, but they won't put a video game like Overwatch, Call of Duty, Madden, that literally generates hundreds of billions of dollars in advertising.
Nothing irks me more than when I'm going to like look for a game that I think is on ESPN, like a college game, and then the World Series of Poker is on. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
No offense to poker. Poker's cool, but fine. Do what you want to do, but
it takes skill, but it takes more luck than playing a video game. If you're good at a video game, that takes a boatload of skill, especially like Call of Duty. These shooters, I want to say more than anything, try playing a skilled shooter, like a world-ranked player in a room. He changes everything. Now take every world-ranked player, put them onto different teams, put them in a room, and say, all right, let's do a tournament, bracket tournament, and see who comes out on top. That is like saying, the thing about these things in esports is they're not so big yet that they're doing NFL league style stuff. They're still the best of the best are going at it. So take every guy in the Pro Bowl, and then all of their like alternates, make that into a league, and there's your esports currently. It's like they're all amazing. There is no scrubs.
It's crazy. The only thing is that the biggest thing that I'm loving watching it grow is the Overwatch League. If I told you, you ready for this? So Overwatch League just signed more teams. They got 20 teams now, right? The Overwatch Finals that was at Barclays a couple months ago sold out both days. I had the honor of covering it for AppTrigger.com, which is part of Fansided. And what amazed me was, I'm 36 years young. I've been around for a while, playing video games, watching football for 30 plus years, playing video games my whole life. And when I saw the different people at the Overwatch Finals, it was range of different ages, ethnicities, girls, guys, everything. It was like a family coming together, not just gamers, but people that came to see a professional competitive esport.
Well, just look at the expansion of E3. Look at the expansion of Comic-Con and just how massive and wide and how many more venues there are and how much it reaches. This is real. Like, this is, and it's going to be, if ESPN, I don't know why, if Fox Sports 1 is legitimately trying to take numbers away from ESPN, why they have not signed a deal with E-League is beyond me.
Yeah, E-League is great, and that's what Overwatch League is trying to do. They just signed the deal last month. They're going to be on ABC. They're going to be on Disney starting in 2019, and it's going to be because it'll be on primetime television. And I think once they get that, because Overwatch is a great game, it has some of the best competitive teams I've ever seen in my life. Like, I thought the League of Legends, and again, it's two different kind of genres of video games, but these guys, they play extremely good, all the different teams. And I think once they broadcast it on primetime national television, that's when I think we're like, oh, wow, that many people are watching it, that much money is being made from revenue and skins and all that stuff, then they're going to hop on. But like you said, like, I don't know what's stopping these networks, because people watch these tournaments like you wouldn't believe. I remember when the League of Legends fight, because they played it in China last tournament, I was up until 8 in the morning watching it for like 5 hours. And I had to work in a few hours after that. But it was so, because I saw Faker and the best of the best play, and it was amazing. And mind you, I had to thank God that the League of Legends broadcasters, they call them shoutcasters, were saying in English, because the whole thing had like subtitles and stuff when they were shouting out their strategies, and it was really remarkable to see. And it's big, and I'm really excited to see how big esports goes. Of course, Overwatch, I think, is the one league that is doing it right. They're making it really serious. They literally called in all these big reporters from all over the world were there, from, the New York Times, the London newspapers, everywhere you could think of, they had people there, and they covered it big, and it was like a round of applause because it was an excellent event. It was, a lot of fans loved it. It got huge numbers. The biggest numbers ever for esports was the Overwatch League finals. And imagine what will happen 5 years from now. And I tell people all the time, give it 3 to 5 more years, we'll be talking about the matches in Overwatch or Counter-Strike or Street Fighter or whatever game comes out. I know the
Video game high school will be real.
They should bring that back.
And
they're going to have all that out there.
My only criticism I've only been able to watch E-League because E-League is on TV in primetime. I think it's on whatever Spike became. Paramount, I think, carries it. Or I think Sci-Fi. One of those two carries it. And when I watch it, one of the things that does turn me off is they spend a lot of times doing stories. And really doing like a lot of background on the teams. And then you watch the matches, but they do a lot of story. And for me, it's kind of like they don't do as much story in like sports, because if the person is that good, you're going to go find out their story. If you really like that person, you really like that star, let that star happen. Don't try and create that star.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that's holding back E-League. I don't know how Overwatch does it, but just put the product out there. Just put the match out there. If you have something important or something rare to tell about them, cool. Do it during the whatchamacallit, during the actual match. Talk about it. Like sports commentators do.
I think what it is because esports in general, it's in its infancy stages, and a lot of people, like, it's a line. It's like, you can't be too nerdy, but you also have to be professional, but you gotta have fun. So you gotta have like that mix. I think, especially with E-League, 'cause I love E-League. I watch it over here. It's on TBS. And I watch it every time it comes out. I've seen the Street Fighter ones, the Counter-Strike ones. They had one with Call of Duty, which was phenomenal. That was really fun to watch. And like you said, I think they break it down as if you have no idea what the hell this is, and they tell it to you in a way, so which I get it's important. But like you said, if I'm watching a game of football, I kind of know what the hell is going on in football. Yeah. I don't need someone to tell me, well, this is a first down. Well, this is a field goal. And I get it, because I know with intricate games like Overwatch has so much going on, and Call of Duty with the kill streaks and stuff like that. I get that. But I mean, like you said, let it shine. Put it up, treat it just like an event. And if I care about Overwatch, I'm going to buy the game. I'm going to go to Overwatch.com and see what the hell everybody's talking about, because it's getting big. And look at Fortnite. And I'm not a fan of Battle Royale genre kind of games, but I respect the hell out of what Epic Games has done with Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
Because that game has taken over the world, and it's only getting bigger. And I know that they're not doing it this year, but they're building up to make in their own league, just like the Overwatch League, is going to come out next year. And I think that's going to be big, because they're going to do the same thing like League of Legends did, which I love, because I'm very big on education and, having kids go to school and college and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I have friends that literally have gotten Overwatch scholarships, League of Legends scholarships, Smite scholarships, and Fortnite wants to do the same thing, which is a beautiful thing, because you might have kids that it happens all the time, because I do work in another job besides writing, and I work with a lot of young people, and it's great to see that, sometimes people don't know what they want to be when they grow up. They are undecided. They don't know what they want to be. But maybe with these career, because it is a career. If you're a professional esports player, you're probably making more money than regular people doing other professions. I mean, Faker alone has made like almost $100 million, and he's only 21 years old and just 2 years of playing professional League of Legends. So imagine all these kids going to University of Maryland or Syracuse or whatever, and they have esports scholarships. And I think that's what's going to usher in the parents and the older people to say, oh, wow, that's amazing. I have a professional Overwatch player, or I have a professional, Fortnite player. That's big because, if you're good at it, that just spawns so many career opportunities for people that might not know what they want to do at such an early age.
Yeah, and another thing to touch on, and you were saying it, you're a true fan of esports, so you don't need all the background. If you like it, you'll know the guys, the gamer tags, and those people, and you'll know the big players. And that's the fun of it, too, because nothing's funner than seeing someone that wants to come into a sport, and what's the first thing that they ask you? Who are the teams I should like? Who are the players I should know? And, if you are a fan of it, you start rambling it off. That's what's also going to get it popular. People being able to come to you and going like, all right, yo, Lou, I want to watch Overwatch, but what are the tags? Who should I watch? What teams are strong? Who's the best player on that team? Who should I be looking out for? And then that word of mouth is what spreads it. And the other thing I do want to say is I agree with you. In 5-10 years, we will see esports as a primetime thing. We'll be watching championships. And we're going to be watching it. I'm making this prediction side by side with MLS soccer. Soccer's coming. Soccer will be this country's biggest sport within 10 to 20 years, rivaling the NFL. Because it's the biggest sport on the planet. It's growing rapidly. We're getting pseudo-stars. We make them stars, but they're still not very good. But we're getting those kids. And it's just going to get better. And also, people pretend like gaming tournaments are brand new. Super Smash tournaments have been around since the N64. Super Smash tournaments started to happen. And that is probably the infancy of E-League, where kids went and competed, and it was mostly, and I think that's the thing, it's seen as a kids thing, where people don't realize that our generation, I'm going to be 30 in November, you're 36, we were the gamers in its infancy. We grew up with Sega, PlayStation, PS2, Xbox, NES, all that, and it's now ingrained in us, and I've definitely fallen out of the gaming scene because it's a time and money thing for me that I don't have to put in, but I still love it. I still enjoy watching talented people do it. My brother is 8 years younger than me, and his friends group knows it all. They just went out. All of them just went out and got the brand new Spider-Man. It's not a competitive game, but they're loving it right now, and it's great.
Probably one of the best games of the year. I got it for my fiance. She broke night Friday to Saturday playing like.
It'll be game of the year, but here's the thing. I still love Elder Scrolls. That's the one game that broke me. Skyrim. My wife isn't a big gamer, but she would request me to play it because she loved it. When the new Elder Scrolls comes out, I'm probably going to have to take like 2 days off work. It's going to be bad.
Oh, you have to.
Like, it's insane. And in my line of work, I'm in a line of work where I don't get off days. If I don't work, I don't get paid. It's just going to have to struggle. But
yeah, I call it the fine balance. You got to do a little bit of everything just to make sure the bills are good.
Without a doubt. So I ask people, I don't know if you did, but I do like to try and ask my guests to try and bring a positive, feel-good sports story if they do know of one. And if it has to do with esports, you can bring it in here too if you know of any. Because I'm tired of all the negative crap that goes on, even in sports and everything in general. So I would like to bring some positive into the world. So do you got anything for me?
Oh, yeah. This is a good one. I mean, with esports, like you said, they don't really have it on national TV like they do other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch is the biggest one for that. It's the biggest social media network. I mean, it's probably fifth in the world. It's a big social media network for anybody that streams and games or whatever.
It's awesome.
And my favorite memory, I never forget, I was watching, there's a girl named Kathy. She is a professional gamer. She does like everything from like Call of Duty to like Counter-Strike. She mostly plays Overwatch now. And there's a term called that you can raid someone. So imagine, you're streaming. She goes on live. She'll have like 80,000 people watching her. She'll get like hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations. She'll get a donation of $200, $300, $400, whatever. And she had a really long stream. She did really good. And somebody in the chat said, that this one girl is like a huge fan of your work. And she unfortunately got the news that, she has cancer. And she was streaming, I think it was like Sims 4. It was the Sims game. I'm not big in the Sims games, but I know it was one of the Sims games. And somebody mentioned that to her, and at the end of her stream, she rated the other girl. The other girl had like 2 people watching her, and then they had like one of her friends were watching her like on her webcam, like her reaction when she saw that she went from 2 people to about like 83 or 84,000 people went into her channel, and she got like about 20,000 followers, and they were flooding her inbox with like donations that I think she ended up with like $10,000 worth of stuff to help with like her chemo and all that stuff. And that, like, a lot of people were like really like touched by that, and I never forget that because I was just watching for Overwatch, and I saw her stream, and she was really good. She's just really good in the game, and then for her to do that, and that touched me, and I was like, that's something that, you know, as a gamer and as someone as like a small streamer, as they call it, to have somebody go in and do that for someone that, you know, is hit with something that's so devastating, and to get those donations and to get like the shout outs, and then Caffeine went into her stream as all the people were on, and she was watching her play, and they were excited. She was like doing a kitchen or something like that. She was like decorating it. And I thought that was really, I was like, that is just touching, because, you know, it might not seem as big as like a touchdown pass or anything like that, but when you get someone that's something like that, that tells you the power of, you know, just the community and getting people to do what's right out of nowhere.
Yeah, so and you know, we talk about the power of sports and what it can do for people, and right there, the gaming community has been an outlier for so long, but now with esports, they're going to become a part of the sports community, and doing things like that is exactly what's going to, I think, push them. So, you know, I don't know if anyone that has any sort of in touch to make a wish with this, but you guys would be smart to jump on right now, because I guarantee there's a lot of kids out there struggling through stuff that either sit on the PC, will throw on Steam, watch Twitch, you know, play their favorite game, try and stream it for fun. They might be sick, and, you know, they might just want to meet their favorite Twitch broadcaster. You know, and that would be a dream come true. Or maybe go on and be able to play a game with that Twitch broadcaster live, be on their Twitch feed. Like, something like that would be massive for someone. And, you know, the power of sports is real. The power of just being a nice person is real. And that's great to hear. My feel-good story is, it's kind of a rehashed feel-good story, but I think it's something that we can make note of every year. It's nice that the Iowa fans are back in full drove and back at the home games, turning around and taking the time to wave to kids at that children's hospital who are some of them battling the worst things they're going to battle in their life. Some of them are not going to make it. That's just a harsh reality. And they get to sit there and watch a stadium filled with 85 to 90,000 people visiting, home, away, every race, every color, every creed, does not matter. Turning around, waving to these kids, and making these kids feel special for at least 5-6 games a year for that solid 30 seconds. For some of these kids, it might be the lasting impression of their life, which is the harsh reality. That's going to be, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I commend Iowa and their team and their fans and any of the visiting teams there for doing something like this, because every time it's a feel-good story, and I think it needs to continue to be mentioned because it's something great.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I remember I saw that video on Sports Illustrated. I was like, that's a beautiful thing, and that tells you the power of football and the power of just fandom. Like, when you do stuff like that, I love when things like that happen, because, you know, we sometimes forget in the world of touchdowns and, you know, defensive headshots and all that stuff that, you know,
and politics, unfortunately, getting intertwined in all of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's nice to see that when you got people that want to do things like that for the benefit of people that need it. Because you'd be surprised, you know, a wave now can extend someone's life a week. It can make them be that one catalyst that gets them to, you know, push through what they got to push through. It's a beautiful thing.
Happiness is the best medicine, and I can imagine some of those kids are sitting there, if they have a long-term stay, they get an Iowa football schedule probably on their wall because they know it's coming, and they circle every home game, and they wait, and that probably makes their day. And I can't imagine how good it makes the families feel seeing their kid smile when their kid might have not have smiled for weeks. So it's a beautiful thing, and I love it. And Luis, I really enjoyed you coming on. I had lots of fun, buddy.
Same here, man. You're doing a great job with your podcast, and it's always a pleasure talking with you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and with that concludes this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast with my great guest, Luis Tirado Jr., site expert over at the Jet Press. Luis, again, where can people find you on social media?
I am on Twitter at LTJ81. You guys want to find me on my Facebook author page. There's a link to all my articles and slideshows and all that stuff. Just simply type LTJ81 on Facebook. And if you guys want to check me out on Twitch, I am twitch.tv/SlayerDemise. Yes, I'm a metalhead. So SLIERDMISE. I love my metal and I love my headshots.
That's great. Everyone, definitely, if you're a Jets fan, 100% go on the Jet Press. 100% follow Luis because he's great to follow on social media. His opinions are fantastic, and I hope you got a lot out of his knowledge just from being here. And definitely, if you're a gamer fan, you know Twitch is where it's at, so go follow him. And again, I'm Alex Cuesta, the host. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30. On Instagram at SportsOpinions30. Visit the Facebook page and listen to any past episodes on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Spotify. Thanks again, Luis. Thanks again, everyone that was listening. Have a good one.